and welcome to the Hybrid School Builders Podcast. I am your host, Rebecca Foley, and I am so glad you are joining me today. I am a fellow grassroots founder who is hoping to make your journey toward founding a sustainable hybrid school a little bit easier. If you are dreaming of starting a hybrid school, or perhaps you've already gotten started, you are in the right place. Join me as we dive into real stories, practical tips, and hard-won lessons that I have learned to help you launch and grow your program with confidence. Remember, building a hybrid school is not just about creating a business or creating jobs. It's not even about just serving the children who attend the program. It's literally about reshaping the landscape of education, and we can do that one community, one entrepreneur, and one program at a time. Hey guys, I wanted to talk a little bit about building a healthy culture. Now, if you haven't noticed, this is something that I actually talk about a lot. In the strategic planning course, I have a whole section on taking an assessment of yourself, as well as a little bit on teams and working together with people. And I talk about this with boards, I talk about this with staff, and I talk about this with families a little bit also as far as the culture of your school. So I'm going to touch a little bit on each of those things. But there's a common thread that runs through all of that, okay? And that's why I bring this up in the planning and then over and over again throughout. I think I'm preaching to myself when I do this because in the beginning of starting a business, I probably wouldn't have listened to this. I probably would have skipped over it. I probably would have thought, oh, I don't really have time for that. And honestly, that's probably true. I would have kind of been like, well, we'll figure it out as we go. It's not that big of a deal. But I learned over time that as much as possible, being proactive and being knowledgeable and having a good vocabulary really helps build culture in teams that are working together, but also just the environment and the culture of your classrooms and your school and with your families. It's very helpful to just be proactively intentional about all of that. Very helpful. It can change the whole feel of your entire program, the working environment, the productivity, the efficiency, the whole quality of your program can all be impacted hugely just out of this culture that is kind of established either accidentally or intentionally by the leaders, okay? That's why it's so important. So the common thread that goes through all of this, I'm going to go back to these 3 H's that I think sum it up, and that would be honor, humility, and humor. I think those 3 words sum up what you want your culture to be based on, okay? So I'm going to talk about some more practical things in a minute, but I'm going to be a little philosophical here for a couple more minutes. What this is describing is a culture in which everyone knows their importance, everyone knows their value in and of themselves. Like, I'm good at this, and that's okay. Like, you're good at this particular thing. That's not arrogance or pride. I mean, you don't run around saying, oh, I'm good at this necessarily. But you step confidently into what you're good at. It means that other people are not stingy with their acknowledgement of that. Picture a group of people, whether it's you and one other person, whether it's you and a board, or you and a couple of staff members, or you and a larger staff. Okay, so in a working environment where you all have to work together, it starts with this. And this is honor, and it's also humility to some extent. Humility is knowing who you are and being able to be that well as knowing what you're not, and seeing that in other people and being able to honor that in other people. And that's so important, and it's hard. It can be hard to do. But if you start with that culture, you start with that environment where you praise each other, you show value to each other genuinely. I'm not a big fan of these, like, let's say something nice about the person next to you exercises, but that can be a way to do it, a tool to help build the culture if you want it to be. But it's better if you're just building an environment where when you get together, you speak positively. You take the time to praise the people around you. You might stop every now and then. Say, what do you think you're doing really well? Like, what do you feel like your strengths are? And then listen, yeah, I think you're really good at that too. I'm so glad you're doing that. Okay. You do that not just at a yearly evaluation, you do it there too, but you do that just as a culture that you're building. And then you say, what do you think I'm good at? Let's make a game of this. But you have to pick the right times for this kind of thing. And you have to have a relationship. You're building a relationship with your staff and your board and all of that. But culture is built a little bit at a time by things you do, things you don't do, by things you say, by things you don't say. Okay. So you're building that culture every time you get together, every time you open your mouth, right? Friendliness, not friendliness, how much time you should stop and talk to people in the hallway or don't, whether there's people in the building, whether there's time to connect and just chat and keep up with each other, with your staff or with your board, without it taking away from productivity, without it taking away from the work that needs to be done. You're building the connection, you're building the relationships, and you're doing it in a positive way, okay? So some of the things that you're doing is speaking with humility. Man, I'm so glad that you do that. I'm really not that great at this thing. And obviously I hope it's obvious that if you're working as a team and you're supposed to be working with somebody you don't want to do, that's not building good culture. So you want to make sure that you're not coming across that way. But you're just communicating that you're a trusted, valued member of this team. And I trust you to do the job that you've been given to do. And you're doing the same with yourself to an extent. And if there's confusion or anything, you sit down and you talk about it and you use that language and you build each other up, okay? This also just helps with the people who are there, why they're working, right? If they know why they are there and that they feel valued and their morale is up because they know what a valued member of the team they are, that's going to go so far toward keeping your staff, keeping your board members, making them actually follow through on the things that they say they're going to do, doing their job well, being prepared. But, you're not manipulating them. You really do want to see and value this in them, okay? Honoring them as people. And your humility, again, it's stepping into what you're good at. So if you're a good leader, you're a good team player, you step into that and you do that well, but you also are aware of what you're poor at. So if there's something you're not good at, you say, I need to find someone to help me fill this gap because I know that this isn't really a strength of mine. I struggle with this. I get frustrated with it. You can be honest with people about this. I know I have to do it sometimes, but it really helps if I can have somebody step in and help me alongside of me, or I can hire this thing out. Or just saying guys, this is kind of a weak area of mine. If you see me struggling in it, feel free to tell me if it's bothering you or if it's frustrating you. That kind of culture, you're building that openness and that relationship with your staff and with your board. And some of the things that you're not doing is you're not talking about people behind their backs. You're not talking about a situation with somebody and not with the person. You're not being gossipy, you're uncomfortable or you're not sure what someone was thinking when they said something. So you go to someone who's your buddy or your friend and you say, I don't know what they were. That you don't do things like that. You don't get cliquish. You don't do that kind of thing. If you have a problem and you need to go to someone to help you figure it out, you say, this person said this thing and I wasn't really sure what they meant. It kind of sounded like they meant this, but I don't know. What do you think? What does it sound like to you? Do you think I should go to them? If you have to talk to somebody, you're doing it in a constructive way. You're not just doing it in a way that's going to tear the other person down. If they could overhear what you said and they were standing there and the door was open and they overheard what you said, would they be deeply hurt? Or would they be able to feel like they could come to you and not have you already have formed an opinion on them? Okay. So that's just really important with a board and with staff. Okay. Now, humor is, I think, it has to be used. Everybody's personality is different. It has to be used wisely. But when you have the vocabulary to talk about people's strengths and weaknesses and personalities and all of that. And you're using that as part of your culture from the beginning. You're using that vocabulary. You're having these conversations openly. You're inviting healthy conflict. That's very, very important. You're inviting healthy conflict. You're actually inviting healthy conflict. If there's quiet, silence, there's awkwardness, you're saying, okay, guys, what's going on here? Like, it looks like you're not sure what he meant by that. You're calling it out. What are you thinking? Or, hey, you haven't said anything yet. Like, what's up? What do you think about this? Or, hold on a second. You haven't given anyone else a chance to talk yet. Can you hold on for a second? I want to hear from so-and-so, right? You're calling out that conflict. And if there's things not being said or whatever, you're stepping up and you're saying it, okay? And you're not afraid to do that. When you're in that culture from day one and everybody just steps into that culture, but you also have a healthy dose of humor, right? Like, you're able to laugh off certain things, not in an unhealthy way, but in a like, oh, I'm being an ideas person again, and this isn't the time for that. Sorry, guys. It just comes with the humility, right? It comes with the honor that you're able to talk openly about things and you're able to kind of like not take it too seriously. Like, if somebody just is who they are, maybe they're a little eccentric, maybe they're a little passionate, maybe they're a little quiet, whatever it is, you can use a little humor to accept all of these different things in people, in yourself, and in the people around you. The important part of the humor is that it's an environment where people are able to be who they are, and it's not taken too seriously if their little eccentricities or their little faults or their little weaknesses, okay? Now, obviously, I hope it's obvious that if you have a glaring problem, like a highly manipulative bully or someone who's not showing up or doing their work, or someone who's so extremely passive that they literally just cannot speak up, right? These are bigger problems that you may have to address one-on-one with the person. And then if it still can't get resolved, they may not be a good fit for your organization. That's taking it to the last step of this. But a piece of building culture is getting the right people in the organization. And sometimes that means having people not stay, right? Now, hopefully you can prevent as much of this as possible through your process of selection and your process of training. You can have high standards for all of these things so that you catch these things before as much as possible. You're not just letting anybody fill the seats. That prevents a whole lot of this. But if you do have someone in, maybe you do hire someone and then something comes out about them that's just not, you just didn't see it. Or you have a board member who just somehow maybe came because someone knew them and said they were really helpful or had this experience, and then you get in and you find out their attitude is just really not helpful or whatever. Okay, if it's really a problem after you confront them, if they're really not willing to work with you, you don't need that dragging your organization down, okay? And it's difficult. It's not easy. But if you have that confidence to be like, no, my job is to protect this organization, our mission, our programming, and our culture, then you're able to do that from more of a place of confidence, okay, as a leader. All right, now, this extends in a slightly different way, right down to your children and your classrooms and your families, because you want that type of culture to be kind of spilling out into those places. Obviously, you aren't controlling what people are talking about in the parking lot or the hallway or whatever. But you can have classroom management that encourages reconciliation, that encourages positive talk. Okay, you could train your teachers in that way. You can have just logistical things that help everyone build relationships. You can have little events, you can have picnics, you can have seminars, you can have parent support events, you can have Christmas parties, you can have volunteer things. Now, yes, this stuff is a lot of work to organize. I understand that. And in the beginning, you may not have the resources for that. And that's okay. That's okay. But you can still have a friendlier environment in the sense that people are able to come in and out of the building and they are able to hang out a little in certain places and just chat with each other. You might have little coffee meet and greets at the first beginning of the year so people can get to know each other in a part of the building if you have space for that. Sometimes you have logistical issues with the space that you're in where there just isn't anywhere to do these things. Okay, I also understand that. But if you're aware of the benefits of it, you can usually find little ways to encourage relationships, right? Or you can have field trips or class Christmas parties, or I'm saying Christmas, I'm at Christmas time right now. Seminars that help the families, like maybe mom seminars on your method of homeschooling, or just a retreat. It might just be a Saturday morning. Okay. And yes, this is a bit of an event, but you could do it in a coffee shop. You could do it in a church. You could even just do play dates at the park, right? But these little things can help develop the relationships in the families where they feel like they belong. They feel like their kid just doesn't have this friend that they have no idea who the kid is and who the kid's family is, but they actually know the family. They've actually met the family. Maybe they set up times to play outside of school, right? And they get to know each other. They feel committed to the success of the school, of the program. And overall, they feel like they're in an environment where things are handled well. If they have an issue with the teacher or another child or another family, they feel like the systems are in place where they know who to go to. They know who to go to after that. They feel like there isn't just avoidance of conflict, or they're being ignored, or it's being swept under the rug, or anything like that. Those are things that can just seep in and just poison a healthy, happy culture. So that's why these systems and this infrastructure is really important to have in place, so that if those things happen, and stuff will happen, behavior stuff will happen, relational things will happen, that it's just unavoidable that it's going to happen, right? You want to be able to have a system in place where it's maturely handled, and some of these conflict resolution and other ability to work as a team and to be honest with each other and to know when to pass something off to somebody else and say, I'm not the person to handle this, or I have to handle this whether I like it or not. The ability to be able to handle all of that and have a supportive team in your administration and your staff where you're all supporting each other, you're all in this together, you all want the success. That's all going to reflect when those little hiccups and those little or big problems happen. It's going to reflect because the foundation is there where you all pitch in to help each other out, from staff all the way up to board. You're all there to protect each other and the reputation of the school and the program. You're all there to deal with conflict, even when it's uncomfortable, to have conversations that might be hard, and to handle everything in a professional and mature way, okay? So building that culture is really important. And if you're aware of it from the beginning, you can take those little steps to speak positively, have the right vocabulary in place. Don't speak in negative ways about people. Deal with healthy conflict in a good way right from the beginning, and have good systems in place. And that in the long run, that is going to be to your benefit of the entire culture, where people know that they're coming to a place that's well run and everyone is in support of the same mission. Everyone works together and everything is handled well, and there's relationship and there's community. Thanks so much for listening today. Don't forget to subscribe and make sure you check out the resources I am developing at startahybridSchool.com. Send me an email anytime. I would love to hear from you. Until next time.